Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar on mobile apps. Today, we're going to be talking about how to build stunning mobile apps with Oracle's Visual Builder Studio and Orchestrator. So my name is Larry Farino. I'm one of the co-founders of ACBM Solutions. I've been working with Orchestrator since it first came out about 9 years ago, I guess. But prior to that, my entire career has been in JD Edwards. So I've always worked in sort of financials and the real estate modules, both as a functional consultant and a project manager. And with me, the star of today's webinar is going to be Ken Shalinski. Ken has been working with JD just about 15 years as well, too, actually. Um, He's also done a lot of work with Orchestrator. He helps with the training classes that we do and building orchestrations, as well as now he leads all of our mobile app projects and is involved in them as a senior developer for all of our mobile apps. So, quick note about ACBM Solutions. We are headquartered in Berkeley Heights, New Jersey. We are an Oracle partner. And as I've already mentioned, we are an early and very experienced adopter of Orchestrator. And we have two Oracle validated integrations with Orchestrator. So our service lines, we offer the trainings, which I had mentioned before, in person and virtual. And actually, in about 2 weeks from now, in collaboration with iLearn ERP, we're going to be launching our on-demand Orchestrator training class. So it'll be our full training class that we offer to our public and private training attendees, but now they'll be available on demand with the full access to the full amount of content. So we're excited to be launching that soon. On the consulting side, a lot of what we do is the mobile apps, which is what we're here for today. But we also do a lot of application integration and process improvement and automation type consulting work as well. Then on the product side, we have 8x, which is one of our Oracle validated integrations, and that allows you to call orchestration from Excel. We have an AJAM, which is a significant enhancement to the attachment manager in JDE. So it just makes working with attachments much easier. Plus, it adds a whole lot more functionality to those as well. We have IoT Fleet, which is our other Oracle validated integration, which integrates vehicle and equipment data with JDE. And also we have Satova, which is a reporting tool for JDE. And there's a bit of history there, but Ken and I, prior to ACBM Solutions, used to work for another company, and Satova was a product that they had developed, and they've since gone on in different directions outside of JDE, and we were able to acquire that product and continue to redevelop and reinvest in it and do some really great things with restoring reporting functionality back into JDE with Satova. Our agenda for today, we are going to talk a bit about the JDE mobile strategy and the history of that, what it used to be and what it has now evolved into. We're going to talk about some of the most popular use cases, as well as guidelines that we typically see for developing mobile apps. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about how that works with the orchestrator and Visual Builder, or really it could be for any no-code, low-code UI tool, but we're going to kind of focus on Visual Builder for that. Then I'm going to turn it over to Ken. He's going to give us a bit more of a deeper dive into Visual Builder, as well as a demo of some of these mobile apps that he's built. So he's going to kind of show you the mobile apps, and then he'll peel back the covers and show you sort of the inner workings of how some of these things work. So let's jump right in with why did JD change their mobile strategy? So mobile apps have been around from JD Edwards for a really long time at this point, but they were not really ever widely adopted. And so what was happening is these mobile apps would exist out there for common functions that people wanted to be able to do from their mobile devices, but it didn't quite meet exactly the requirements that they had, right? So in order to make those mobile apps work, they would have to customize these mobile apps, which became really, really costly. So for example, If you had a PO approval app, everybody wants a PO approval app. That's sort of the most popular use case that we see, especially when you're getting started with mobile apps, right? But everybody needs to do it slightly differently. The requirements are a little bit different. So even though we've always had a PO approval app from JD Edwards, if it doesn't meet your exact needs in terms of what you want to see, working with attachments, sending rejection messages, workflows, all this other kind of stuff, then people just don't really use it because it's not simplifying their life. In order to try to use it, you would have to customize everything, and that was really, really expensive. You needed a math license and Java on the mobile devices. It just became a clunky, costly solution that wasn't very scalable. So instead, what we've seen is this shift from these native mobile apps that had to be individually developed for each type of device to these progressive web apps. And that's what Ken's going to talk about a lot today is progressive web apps and what those are and how they work. But at a very high level, you can think of these as a mobile app that's kind of wrapped over a web page, right? So you can build these web pages. Web pages will work on any device, right? They work on your phone, they work on a tablet, they work on your desktop computer, they'll work kind of anywhere on a scanner. And so the idea here is that we can use this sort of web page technology and have this sort of wrapper that makes it look and feel and act just like a native mobile app. This reduces the amount of development time that's needed and allows us to build these mobile apps that work really well and look like an enterprise mobile app should look. And we're able to do that very, very quickly. So I mentioned PO approval as one of the more common ones. The other ones that we see all the time are inventory. And so Ken's going to demo those for us later. We're going to take a look at some inventory inquiry availability. We're going to look at inventory transfer, inventory adjustment. Another one that we're going to look at is sales order entry. We do see that a lot. But with the sales order entry, we're going to start looking at some of the UI components and the flashier kind of UI, UX type of things that help increase adoption of these mobile apps. So when we're thinking about guidelines for a mobile app, it really starts with the requirements, right? So take everything out of the equation. We're starting with nothing, right? We have a blank slate. If we're building a mobile app, and this could be for anything, it doesn't necessarily have to be just for JD Edwards, right? If you're building any mobile app with any technology, what do you want from it? Well, you want something that's going to be scalable, right? It needs to be able to start working with as few as 2, 3, 5, 10 users or whatever, and be able to scale to thousands of users or tens of thousands of users, depending on how many people you have. You need it to be secure. Security is one of the most important things that we're seeing nowadays, right? The amount of scrutiny and oversight from a security perspective is huge. And when you're talking about your ERP data and exposing that to mobile apps, you have to make sure that you have a secure solution and that the proper stuff is walled off without compromising functionality inside the mobile app, right? So you need to have the ability to have real-time updates, right? We need to, every time we have an update, do we want to go in up and perform an update on each device individually, or would we rather just update the app and have it work the way we want it for everybody all at once? That's usually a big benefit that people are looking for. And the concept of an offline mode, we hear everybody wants these mobile apps, but very frequently we're hearing about people that want mobile apps in places that don't have any cellular service. And so the ability to have offline caching so that you can have devices out in the field that can perform the functions that they need to perform, and then when they're brought back, then they can sync and refresh and make sure that JDE gets updated and the app gets updated with any changes that have been in JDE. Then lastly, we want to look at the total cost, right? We need to make sure that we have this great solution that is going to simplify the lives for everybody that we have working in our organization. But it has to make sense from a cost perspective. There has to be cost savings. So these are the types of things that that you should be looking for, whether you go with Orchestrator and VBCS or not. These are the types of things that you're going to be considering when you're developing your mobile app strategy. Now, the of course, our preference and the goal of this webinar is to kind of show you why we think that Oracle's Visual Builder's cloud service and Orchestrator is the best combination for achieving or implementing this mobile app strategy. So the way it works is you sort of have this integrated but separate technology stacks that we're using, right? So one is Orchestrator and one is the Visual Builder Cloud Service. So the idea is that you build your mobile app front ends in Oracle's Visual Builder Cloud Service, and then you build all your data transformation and logic inside the orchestration, and then those two just kind of talk to each other via REST requests. By doing this and keeping all of the logic and the data transformation in Orchestrator, all of the guts, or I'll say the inner workings of the apps, are self-contained within JDE and Orchestrator. So we're leveraging our existing investment in our ERP system, and we're just building this sort of front-end UI that just makes requests and pushes and pulls data to and from the ERP system via the orchestrations. So this makes it much faster, much easier, much cheaper to develop mobile apps, right? So in the past, I always kind of say this quote that in the past, developing mobile apps, I mean, every mobile app is different, but doing something like a work order mobile app might have taken anywhere from 6 to 8 months. And now we can do those kinds of things, the equivalent things, in like 3 to 4 weeks. So that's the sort of time compression, cost compression that you get from building these things by using tools like Visual Builder and Orchestrator. Now, the other benefits are that you don't have to customize JDE, which is huge, right? The less customizations we have in JDE, the better. And Orchestrator has done a fantastic job of removing the need to customize JDE for a whole host of other use cases. I could have a whole webinar on just that. But it goes beyond just the existing JDE customizations and getting rid of things that might have been customized in the past, to the fact that now you shouldn't have to customize as much going forward either, because at least from a mobile strategy perspective, because your orchestrations can do that for you. And so at the end of the day, when you split these things and you make them you compartmentalize each of those functions, the user, the UI, and the logic, you're left with simpler mobile apps that are much more modular and easier to build and maintain. So before I turn it over to Ken, I just want to very, very briefly walk you through some screenshots of a few apps that Ken has built before. So I don't believe he's going to be showing you, well, he won't be showing you this one today. I think we've done this in other webinars before, and if anybody's interested, I'm always happy to do it. But I just wanted to show you what a PO approval mobile app can look like here. So you have your sign-in screen, you have a list of all the orders that are awaiting approval based on your JDE user and how you're logged in. And then you can get into the PO details and even look at the attachments that are associated with each of these things. We have a work order app here, so we can have a dashboard with some information about the overall health of our system. This was geared on maintenance work orders. So it'll just give you some insight into how things are working. And then you have the ability to create work orders, view work orders, change them, all that kind of stuff here as well. And then lastly, and I think Ken is going to show this one, at least a little bit of this one, is the sales order app. And so again, we have the dashboard, you have the ability to create and look up sales orders and modify details of them. But we just wanted to give you a quick high-level overview of some of these applications that we've built. And then Ken's going to take a much deeper dive into them after he gives you a little bit more of a primer on Visual Builder. So with that, Ken, I will turn it over to you. Actually, sorry, Ken, before I turn it over to you, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to use the Q&A box. You should see it there up at the top. We'll mostly hold questions to the end, but I'll be monitoring them. And if something comes up that's I think is kind of critical for Ken to address while he's on a particular screen. I'll bring it up there and kind of interrupt him. Otherwise, we'll hold off and we'll do all the other questions at the end. So with that, Ken, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Larry. Yeah, and as Larry mentioned, we showed a couple of the other apps we did before. We can always hop on another call and demo if we want to take a deeper dive into some of those, if something like that fits your needs. But let's go ahead and talk about how we're accomplishing this by giving you sort of a good overview of what the offering is from Oracle. So there's two main products here. One of them is called Oracle Visual Builder, and the other is called the Oracle Visual Builder Studio. Now, the Visual Builder is an instance, and you get that through the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, the OCI. And essentially, that server is where your applications they actually live there. So any mobile devices will talk to those. That's the server that actually connects to your JD Edwards. This is what we typically internally with clients refer to as the deployment server. Now that one is the one that there is a cost with it, and we can get into that at some other time. But for the actual development of it, there's another portion, and this is actually a free offering that used to be part of Oracle Developer Cloud Services. This is the Visual Builder Studio. This is what we call sort of the development platform, and this is one of the things that I'm really excited about, and why I like to do this, because it's a web development tool. It has everything from your code management with Git. It can hook into different environments. You can deploy all different versions of your application to different connections. So you can have a PY version, a dev version, a production version, however many versions you want. And all of those things, the code is managed in the Visual Builder Studio, and it's sent to be compiled and then ultimately live on the deployment server. But really, the Visual Builder Studio is sort of where your development team is doing their work all the time. So that's sort of, I'll be talking a little bit about, I'll say Visual Builder, and then if I say the Visual Builder Studio or the Studio, just understand that those are sort of two different components of this service offering. All right, so on the next slide, let's take a look at how we're going to answer some of those questions that Larry mentioned before. So on the wheel, right? So the first thing is, again, this is all through Oracle Cloud. So it's a cloud-based service. This is going to give you that scalability that's really important. So we can start off with one instance. With the Studio, you can link it up to a bunch of different Visual Builder instances. So you can have some that if you want dev instances, if you want production instances, if you need to scale that out, all of that is available to you on the cloud platform. As far as the actual interface, we'll show you that. I'm actually going to show you Visual Builder Studio, and I'm going to show you sort of how easy it is to sort of make some of these quick changes, things that would be cumbersome or may take time to do some simple changes. We can do pretty easy because it's, this visual and the declarative approach. That's going to lower a lot of the time to get some of these applications rolled out. As far as like the life cycle, this is where we're really focusing on. We want to get away from these 1-year projects at a time. We want to have a product that the users like, that gets continuous development. And in order for those new features to roll out, we have to sort of compress that development cycle. We have to use our tools. We need to make things faster to develop, faster to test, and faster to roll out. And that's really what we're getting out of this platform. For the services, all of the integrations we have, we're integrating it with JD Edwards, but again, this is a cloud service. We can talk to other things. We can talk to everything else in the Oracle stack. So if you have those other services, it fits right in with that. And sort of the last thing that I'll talk about too is, when it comes to development on this platform, it's standard. So we use JavaScript, we use HTML, we use CSS, we use REST calls. All of this is industry standard communication. And with that, if we ever need to hook into another platform, if we need to hook into Salesforce, if we need to hook into some of the Google ad APIs, if we need to hook into any of the other APIs, a lot of that, they have REST endpoints. The service can hook into that too. So this is sort of why we've settled on this offering as kind of giving a good robust solution for all of the problems that we're seeing. So now let's talk about how everything is actually going to connect to your JD Edwards. So this slide is kind of it's sort of an overview of how everything works. As I mentioned, the Visual Builder Cloud Service, that's really the deployment server, right? So you have code, compiles the app, and then it lives on this Visual Builder Cloud Service. What we use is sort of the proxy service. So all the devices are connecting to the Visual Builder Cloud Service. They're not connecting directly to your JD Edwards. You don't have to open all your firewall ports for everything. Security is narrowed quite a bit by having just the connection between VBCS server and your JD Edwards. So since all the devices funnel through the cloud service, you can easily add another one in OCI Cloud. You can scale up. So if you have 10 mobile apps, mobile devices on it, not a problem. If you have, 20,000, 100,000, you just have to roll out more servers, and you can do that easily with the OCI offering. So all of that, again, it's connected to your JD Edwards from that central server. So things like SSO, things like the different considerations for the security. This is what's going to make your IT manager much happier when they see the solution. So it'll make their life easy. And so let's take a look at the actual interface. So I'm going to show you this, but some of the things that help this is, one, we have a unified development experience. So if you have one developer, you have 10 developers, you have 100 developers. Let's say you roll out a lot of custom applications, not just internally, but for your customers as well. This offering is something where you can have this standardized development platform. You add another developer, they don't have to configure hardly anything when it comes to their workspace. A lot of that just works. So they can really jump right in and get working. And that's what I like about it a lot. So personally, as a developer, I'm able to use this on my desktop or my laptop, and I've even logged in on my phone to push some deployments. And because all of this is going through that studio, that web development interface, I didn't have to do anything special. I just had to log in, and I was able to do my stuff regardless of my personal environment. So it's just one of those things from a developer standpoint that helps sort of increase that speed which we can roll out these products. Again, it's also focused on, we're making a web application here. So the web app's focus is, it doesn't matter what the device is, it doesn't care. It uses the browser. So if it gets it to the phone, it's going to rescale, resize everything for the phone. If it's a tablet, if it's a desktop, all of that stuff is handled in the browser, and that's the goal. So we're developing one web application, and that's going to be usable on the different devices. So we no longer have to do an iOS specific device, an Android specific device, a Windows application, I meant. So instead of having these 3 different applications that all have to run and all have to be developed separately, we're doing one application that's going to run on all the devices. And again, we'll show on the demo how we can use some of the built-in things. So one of the things I'm going to use is the camera. So I'm going to use the camera like as if it was a scanner. And we'll show when we get to the sales order app how we can sort of, or the inventory transfer, where we can quickly use some of these built-in functions of the a phone or a tablet to interact with the applications. Things like location data stuff. So if you have an incident reporting application, you need to log some sort of an incident in the field, you can use GPS location. So the guy may say, in the warehouse or on the yard, right? We don't know where that is, but we can collect the GPS information and we can find this is the exact location something like that happened. And again, all of these applications are designed to where we can cache things locally, so that if we need offline functionality, we have access to that data without having to be connected all the time. We'll show you also how, when it comes to the distribution, it's really going to be a one-click sort of sharing, one-click install. So basically you end up with a URL and you go to that on your device. It's going to prompt you to install. And then the application sort of just lives there. And this is going to make things easy, because if you ever do any updates, the Visual Builder deployment server keeps track of the version that's deployed. It knows what things are running. It knows the code that it currently has. So if you have any updates, the user's simply going to get a prompt that says, the version's out of date, restart the application and you're good to go. And that's it. They don't have to reinstall anything. They just have to close it and reopen it, and it's all updated. So this is one of those things where we understand from coming from the JDE world, getting a production update is a process. It can be a lengthy process sometimes. And as far as our application side of stuff using Visual Builder, the ability to push an update to your a critical patch or a critical feature that needs to come out, we're looking at taking that development cycle time from a JDE perspective of being months or weeks or however long that time is, to where it could be a matter of days, if not an hour or two, to get something critical like that out. So it's really just it's a robust solution that sort of increases that that productivity window by getting those things out quicker. So now let's go ahead and we're going to take a look at sort of the demonstrations here. So let me go ahead and just, yep.
Yep. So while you're doing that here, I'll stop sharing and you can start sharing. But we did have a question that came in. So while you're working on that, the question was, do you guys support all types of scanning capabilities? I'll let you answer that, but also feel free to clarify that question if you had something in particular that you're thinking of. But Ken, go ahead and.
Yeah, so we can show you that there's a couple things that are built into development tools. So one is you can do scanning with the cameras. So in the case of the demo that we do at Blueprint or in Focus live demo, we have an iPad or a phone and we can scan using those cameras. I've worked with Honeywell devices, Zebra devices, and all of those are a little bit different. Some of them have the built-in scanner where you scan the barcode and it simply, the device itself returns what you call the string, right? The data from that barcode, and we basically just direct the field that it goes into, and then any actions that we need to occur after that. So when it comes to those devices, yeah, I mean they're pretty much all, it's standard functionality with most of those devices, and we've worked with them before. So you definitely have the ability to sort of use. It's kind of like a pick your own device, and that's the beauty of the web app. So let's go ahead and show sort of the sales order application. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm going to turn off my camera so that we can do some scanning later on here. So, all right, so here is, this is sort of a sales order app that we did. And these are as simple or as complex as you need them to be. So here we're going to use our JDE login credentials. So what this is going to do is it's going to pass in our information and it's going to grab our session token. And then with that, as soon as we log in, we run orchestrations. And this is, 4 sort of simple orchestrations to give you some data. Now this is all demo data, so it's a little bit older, but all of this stuff is basically real time. So, this here is the 4 orchestrations that just ran and it refreshed that. So if the data had changed, it would be there. We'd see that sort of instantly. Now, what's really cool is a lot of these components, this is all part of the Oracle Jet suite. So, what we can do with something like this is if you wanted things like to click on these and have it drill down to a particular item or a different query, you can do that as well. A lot of these things are all interactable. So here's a sort of a quick dashboard. Let's go ahead and create a sales order here. So it's going to load the list of orders, and something you'll notice here is that we're basically feeding this to, we're going to feed it into the QBE row of JDE. So I can do something like just say, less than 100 for my orders, or rather that's the other way around. But if I switch it, we can see here's the orders for that. I can clear it. I can look at the orders today. We can see the demo that I did this morning. If we want to change it to the plant, we get all of that stuff here. So it's kind of a really helpful thing to be able to use that familiarity with the QBE row. If your users know how to use JDE, then this is sort of an easy step for them to navigate the application. So let's go ahead and put in an order. So I'm going to do an order. What we're going to do is we're now going to be syncing, pulling in all of our item data. This is going to be everything from company lists, branch plans, customer numbers, stuff like that. So right away we have some defaults that we can always set. Let's put in, this is going to be the demo for order date. Pick today. Let's do company 20, branch plants. We should do 30 and 42. And so also, you can type ahead here. So if I just put 42, you notice we get everything here. So 4242, these are our lovely capital systems that we all love. And let's go ahead and add some items to this. So what we're going to do is bike. Sorry, I don't have the description. So we want to do our part number 220. So there's our touring bike. We're going to do one of them. Let's go ahead and put a requested date. Let's go ahead and add another one. Let's do the 230 bike. This is going to be the youth one. Let's add 4 of those. And let's go ahead and we're going to save the order now. All right, so the order number is saved. So we have 12-130. That was our order. If I put the order in here, now we see our order. And then I'm not going to do it quite yet, but if we need to see the details of that, we can do that. So let's go ahead and just double check in JDE here. So if we look here for our order number, here we have it, and we can see this is our first quantity. That was our 220 bike and then our 230 bike, and we have those here. So all of this stuff, again, we're using Orchestrator, so it's real time, put into JDE sort of instantly. So let's go ahead and edit one of these rows. Let's change this one. Let's say we need a whole bunch more of these touring bikes. We don't want 4. Let's do 100. Go ahead and update that, and then let's save our update. So now if we go back into JDE, take a look, we now see that we have 100 here. And so, the thing is that when we're looking at what we're using these applications for, so here we have our standard, entry screen. We have, a lot of fields here. But as you saw, we don't have to have every field available. If only some of them matter to your customer or to your salespeople, then you give them exactly what they need, nothing more that they don't need, and then you're able to get them more productive and not bog them down with a lot of things. And we'll see some stuff like that too when we look at the other applications. So going back, again, this is something that is a little bit more of your customer, or not customer, but the sales focus. You can do dashboards. This can be something like for a manager. We can set up custom dashboards for really anything. And then the other part is, because we're using Visual Builder, we're able to pass data through the URL because it's a web app. So if we want to embed this into your JDE screens, we have that option as well. So it doesn't have to live, on a phone, exclusively on a phone. It can be a phone, it can be a tablet, it can be a desktop, it can be within your JDE itself as sort of an enhancement screen. So let's take a look at now do some inventory action. So, or before I get through there, I just want to show you. So things like this are pretty cool. If we flip the tablet, everything sort of rescales, resizes, and then this is not optimal on a phone, this particular screen. But if you notice, I switched to a phone and we have all of our data still here. So from a developer standpoint, I did not a lot. We're talking maybe 5-10 minutes of work just to make sure that these things fit nicely on the phone. But when you're talking about something like 5 years ago, having to develop basically 2 separate applications, one for a larger format and one for a smaller format, this is one of the things where we're able to leverage that Visual Builder development environment to sort of quickly roll out, an application that's going to work on those different devices. All right, so let's take a look at some inventory actions now. This is something.
Ken,
go ahead.
So I see a question, and actually someone put something in the chat as well. So, but they're both kind of related to the same sort of thing. The comment in the chat was that you were able to go through quickly because you knew the vendor numbers and the item numbers, but in the real world, that's not the case. And so how would you do a lookup? And then the question was sort of a similar thing about how do you load the drop down with the item numbers? So I know you're going to have that same sort of thing here in the inventory apps that we're looking at.
Yep.
And just maybe spend a little bit more time on the drop downs and the lookups and the searching and all that inside of the fields there. And I think that will help address both of those comments and concerns. And just for everybody else as a reminder, if you do in the chat, I will try to scan that as well. But if you put it in the Q&A panel, that would be preferred.
Yeah, I apologize. I had the Q&A one up. I didn't have the chat panel up. But you know, really to the point of these fields, they're all customizable. So these are just sort of filling in the QB row, but yes, we absolutely could be able to have drop downs on all of these for putting in like an order. If we look at that field, I'll show you how this actually works in Visual Builder. So here I only have the order company, but you know, it works if you know the number. You're exactly right. But I'll show you in the inventory how we can leverage these components to pull back and search multiple data items. So it'll be able to search, you know, not only the item number, but the description, stuff like that. We'll see that in the inventory application. All right, so we got a couple things here. We're going to look at availability, just inquiry, availability, adjustment, and a transfer. So this is, I'm going to have a little bit more development stuff here because I'm going to talk more about this when we show how this sort of application works in the Visual Builder itself. So I'm going to have some of this out and I'll just highlight some of the things that we're seeing. So the first thing is here we have our screen, and this is going to be it's going to be set up for a mobile platform right here, or a sort of a tablet screen, but we can switch it to something else. You know, so I'm simulating the little circle is sort of your finger. So this is simulating a mobile device. So we can refresh the data, and as I click these buttons, what we're seeing here on the left is it's running these orchestrations, and it's pulling back all of this data sort of in real time. So that's, again, like Larry mentioned it, this is sort of the heart of the back end of it. So we're using orchestrations to pull all that data. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to show you more in kind of a style on like a phone. And this comes down to thinking about a mobile device that's like a scanner. You have a smaller screen, so you need to really focus on your layouts, focus on making sure everything is going to be fit right, and be sure to get all that information. So here on the menu, we're going to check out our inventory. We're going to do an inquiry right here. So when we're talking about the stuff here, if you notice, this is a little bit different style of a dropdown. So this is a little bit more complex. And what we have is the ability to search both fields. So if I search for epoxy, we got epoxy. And then if I want to search for our bike, here's our mountain bike. So we can select that. Now, if you had a scanning device, going back to the question earlier, you would simply click in that field, or when they load the page, it would automatically be in that field. They'd scan the device, and then the device itself would put 210 or whatever the barcode contents are right there. We can even add a tab at the end of that so that it would automatically run the query and pull that information sort of instantly. So working with the devices is usually fairly painless. So for this information, you can see we pulled out, here's just our orchestration. It got our number. And if we look at sort of what we passed in, the orchestration accepted just the second item number, and it gave back the information from the item master. So checking in JDE, just to double check, we all know that what we're going to find, but essentially it's pulling this data right here. So again, any of these things, if you can pull data using an orchestration, organize it with the orchestration, you can show it in Visual Builder. So if we were to do availability, so the same thing here, let's go ahead and find our bike. I'm going to just search for the bike. There's our 210 bike. We're going to get our availability. So here we see we're getting rid of all of the 0 lines. We know that there's a lot of stuff. Grand total 22,064. So let's go ahead. Again, we're going to see that same stuff here in JD Edwards. And then of course, we have a lot more information here. Maybe it's useful to you, maybe it's not, but the beauty is you can pick and choose what columns you want to see. You can put that in the application. If you have more requirements, you can fix that. You can fix that and sort of customize it however you want. So the next thing we'll look at is, let's look at an adjustment. So here, in this case, what I want to do is show sort of some scanning features. So we saw we can search through the branch plant. I know that I'm going to pick 10 or 20. Let me go ahead and find the barcode. I don't have that barcode with me. I'll show on the next screen when we do inventory transfer. We'll use a compound in the next one. That'll be a little easier. So here, search for a 210. Let's find our bike. Where did it go? Right here. Let's go ahead and transfer to. So again, all of this stuff is through Orchestrator. So let's go ahead and try something here. In this component itself, we're only allowing the device to select something that that we are getting from the UDC table or from the item master or the business unit master. So it's not really possible for them to put in a bad value here. But if we do something like let's put in some letters, what we're going to do is well, that's going to fail, but that was a bad example. But anyway, if you have a standard standard input fields and something is not available, if you have that error that you're going to get back in JDE, you're going to see that as well. So anything that'll show up in the orchestration, you're going to see. So let's take a look at adjustments. So here we see one here, and that's the same one that we just did. So we get all of this information in JDE. Let me go ahead and I think I need to relaunch this one. Give me 1 second. Let me pop up Visual Builder. So here, this is our inventory tools. I'm just going to run this one again. Okay, let me make it back to the mobile. There we go. So this is what we want to see now. So in this case, we're going to go to the question about the scanning. So again, if we were to have one of the Zebra or one of the Honeywell devices, it's going to return us an item number or whatever the value of the barcode is. Now with that, we can do a bunch of things. We can parse the barcode. We can pull out the parts that we want. A lot of time the barcodes contain tons of information, but really we may only want one segment or so. So let's take a look at how we would do that here. So for the first thing, we can select our item number, but let me go ahead and I'm going to do my camera. So you can see me here. This simulates the scanner on the phone, using the phone camera. And that was very quick. Let me do it again. So I'm going to cover part of it. So you can see here's the barcode I just printed out. And as soon as I take my hand away, it recognized the value. So let's put in a quantity here. And then now let's take a look at if we're going to do a multi-part barcode. So again, we see me here. I'm going to cover it up, and then when I take it away, there we go. We filled out, that was branch plans 30, and we had a location on there. So this is going to simulate, we're moving it. We've scanned our item number on our crate, on our pallet, and then we've scanned the location where we're at. Now we're going to get in the forklift. We're going to drive to the new spot, and we're going to go ahead and scan that new barcode over there. So we're going to submit it. We have our number there, 207. So now let's go ahead and, whoops, let me go back to JDE here. So let's look at our transfers. Here's our 207 transfer. We're going to open that up and we see exactly where it was and from and then where it went to. So the thing is, if we look, again here at some of these screens, if we're going to do a transfer, we have a lot of fields that we can fill out on the JDE screen. But as you saw on the mobile app, if I'm a worker, if I'm, one of the guys at the heart of your business in the factory, in the warehouse, I don't need to mess around with all of those fields. I just need a couple things. And in this case, really, we're just putting it into a barcode. So if you can make those barcodes a little bit more friendly for your users, you can really sort of cut down that time of that data entry. The other thing is, I have this in the format that JDE needs. I was able to do that when we're parsing the barcode. I didn't make a typo. I didn't, what they say, fat finger or something, right? If I have a glove on or something, those data entries, those data errors are things that cost time and cost you productivity. And sort of harnessing Visual Builder, harnessing these sort of scanning techniques and the barcode scanning really reduces a lot of those errors from just bad data entry. So I'm just going to take a double check here on the questions. I think we're up to date, right, on the Q&A.
There's one more question that came in from Tom here. I was going to save it to the end, but you can answer it now
Oh,
if
I
you
see it.
want.
It's
So
top down. Yeah.
yeah. He just said, do you need anything additional to scan barcodes from the device's camera? So it's a really good question, actually. So maybe do you want to just talk a little bit about how you
Yeah.
did that?
Yeah, I think that's a perfect time to jump into Visual Builder. And Tom, I'll show you kind of how we do that when we look at the application itself. So as mentioned, there was sort of two components. We have Visual Builder, the deployment server, that's where everything holds it. And then this is the Visual Builder Studio where the code lives. So we have a couple things here from an organization level. We have our different projects that we have working on. I'm going to go ahead and we'll click into the inventory project. Again, some of the benefits we have of using the studio is that we have full get information or get integration. We can do our issue tracking there. If we want to have multiple developers, you can have different workspaces for developers. Each developer can have a dev workspace and then a trash workspace or a temp workspace, and then make some custom things. If it doesn't work out, you can just discard it if you need to, or you can use the merge request to sort of merge that into your base code. Other integrations you have here, this is more for on the IT side of stuff. Lots of integrations with other products. And then as far as the build pipelines, we can set different pipelines for your different environments. Build for development, build for PY, build for production. And then lastly, when we get to the deployment servers, these are your Visual Builder servers, and these are where the code lives. So if you want to have a production Visual Builder developments or deployment server, you can have that, and then you can have another one for all of your development, so that you're not you don't ever risk performance issues by keeping your development sort of separated like that. Other features that are sometimes used, a lot of people already have these in-house, but built into the studio, there's issue tracking. You can have different boards of feature requests. You can have wiki, lots of different things. These are all features built into here. I know a lot of times companies have their own stuff, but just to let you know, it's an offering here that you can use. So now let's go ahead and jump into the tool. We're going to look at this and we're going to show how we're doing some of that scanning stuff. So right away we have our root application, and then within it we have what are called sort of flows, and these are sort of just the sections of pages that that the application starts with. So if I click on the home one, we're going to see that this is the home screen that we saw. What's great here is I see it in the iPad. If I want to test quickly on the phone, I can just switch it here. We get that. So from a development standpoint, this is pretty fantastic for me. If we look at all of the, let's go ahead and look at the inquiry one. So in this case, really what we're doing here is this is the same screen we saw. If I click on this get information, we're going to see that we had an event that gets launched when you press the button. If I look at this event, what it's going to do is first it's going to check and make sure that we have an authenticated token, a valid AIS session token. If the session's good, then what we're going to do is run the orchestration. Here's the orchestration to pull that data, and then if it's got an error, we're going to send back what the error message was from JDE, and then if it's successful, we're going to update and refresh the data. So that's sort of what an action chain looks like. And again, action chains happen with everything here. So a simple one on the back button. This is a simple action chain, and all it does is navigate to the previous screen. So from a development standpoint, setting up these action chains are reusable pieces of code. So there's an action chain to refresh the data in some of these lists. So I can call that from multiple places. So it's one section where I'm making code, but you're able to call it from multiple ones. When we talk about the capabilities of the scanning function, so let's take a look at how we achieve this. So this is just an icon, and with everything else, if we look here, if I click on that icon, it has an event, runs an action chain. This action chain, what it's actually going to do is if we go into the code here, so we're going to call this custom barcode scanner module. And what's fantastic about using the Studio now, this is a fairly recent update, but a lot of these action chains are now, we can use just straight JavaScript to code things. So from a development standpoint, it's really great and really easy to work with. So let's take a look at what it's actually calling here. It's this custom barcode scanner function. And if I go to my resources here, these are all custom resources you can add. So I have one for parsing JDE messages, and then here we have one for the scanner. So this is actually just a library that we got. So we're calling in some custom code here. This is all about setting up the camera. This is a little bit different from the built-in tool. Let me jump back just to show. So there, where is the built-in tool? I think we have to, yeah, so they have a built-in tool to scan barcode. The problem is sometimes we've had some issues between the devices iOS and Android. Oracle knows about this, and really it comes down to the phone not allowing the browser to invoke some of those operations. So sort of to get around that, you're able to use custom JavaScript. You're able to use any custom code to sort of do whatever you need to be. So there's a saying where given enough code, we can accomplish anything. And that's exactly what we're doing here with the barcode scanner. So we're just running our custom function, and then that's what's invoking that camera frame, and it's going to parse it and then bring back the real value. So, something that is just show something real quick. If I go back to one of these screens here, this is actually, it's probably easier if I show in the sales order screen. So one of the reasons why I like Visual Builder is I used to do web development, a lot of times, and you'll have something like, hey, can we not have these hint labels inside? Can we have them outside the field? And that's great if there's only a couple items here, but if you have hundreds of fields or data fields that you need to adjust stuff, it can be cumbersome. So why Visual Builder is fantastic. I can just do something like this, and it's going to update, all of those things automatically. So Oracle has really put a lot into this tool. And one of the things that I forgot to mention earlier of why I like it so much is they use Visual Builder for all of their platforms. Any web development that they have, if they're building something in OCI, if they're building something in Fusion, they're using Visual Builder in-house. So they have a 50 plus development team working just on Visual Builder. So that sort of gives me the peace of mind that when I read these different patch notes, I'm seeing things that they're updating this particular feature to make it more easy, to add a quality of life feature. And so that constant improvement on their development tool means that I get constant improvement in my development process. So I guess with that, I think we're pretty close to time. Just want to let Larry wrap up or have any questions that we can talk about. Feel free to toss something in the chat.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Ken. Let me go ahead and I will reshare my screen and we can kind of wrap up here. Give me 1 second here. There we go. All right. So there we go. So, all right. So again, thank you all for coming. I put the contact information for Ken and I here on this slide so you can see that. But also, if you're interested in staying up to date with the the latest offerings that we have, and especially educational content around mobile apps and other Orchestrator stuff, please feel free to subscribe to our blog if you haven't already. I put a link in there at the bottom. We also have a YouTube channel and a LinkedIn page where we post a lot of good content on our LinkedIn page. And the YouTube, we've been slacking a little bit, but we'll be looking to add more videos, including probably a recording of this webinar as well, which we'll also put on the website. So with that, I will open it up to any further questions that anyone may have. And if we've already answered all of your questions along the way, then we can give everybody back the last couple of minutes of the webinar. But Ken and I will stay on for another minute or two in case any questions come lingering in. And thank you guys. Yes, thank you guys for joining. Right, thank you guys all for the great comments. But it does seem like there's no more questions, so we're gonna sign off here. And
wait, hold on. We have one last one.
We do have one question that just came in, another one at the end. Go ahead, Ken. You can take that last one if you see it.
Okay, so this one is actually fantastic because there's several different ways that you can accomplish this. And the beauty of it is all those different ways, one of them is going to satisfy your IT policy. Basically, what happens is you set up the application to forward your JDE username password, pull back that session token, and then that's going to give you authentication. Now, once a user is able to authenticate that way, really once it's deployed, you can have two different levels of authentication where anyone can access the app or where they need to be signed in to some sort of SSO to be able to get to that web page. But on the deployment in the Visual Builder Studio, on the deployment environments, you're able to see all of those links to all the applications, and it's as simple as giving that person that link directly, or you can generate a QR code, send it to them, and then they can open it with their phone or tablet or anything like that.
Okay. And Ken, actually, I do see one more that came in here in the chat side. So the question was, do we need orchestrations? The answer is you do not need orchestration. So in the context of JDE mobile apps, we normally prefer to put all the data transformation and the logic in the orchestrator, as I was kind of saying earlier. But Visual Builder is a tool that exists on its own. You can build standalone apps. You don't need to integrate it with JDE or any other system for that matter. I mean, it can integrate with anything. Yep. It'll integrate with any other ERP system, any other CRM system, any other thing that you want to integrate it with, or it can be used for standalone apps by itself. But in the context of JDE, we typically recommend using orchestrations for that piece of it.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that Visual Builder, the tool itself, has its own databases, its own tables where you can store data. So we actually have another client where they needed just a very simple application to list phone numbers whenever there's an incident. It's just information. It needs to be offline. So we chose to do the route of we're not connected to JDE at all. We just load that data in one of the Visual Builder Studio little data stores, and then they're able to get that information. So it's completely independent. It's not hooked up to anything, but it perfectly satisfies their use case.
Perfect. All right. Well, with that, we will wrap it up. So thank you again, Ken. Thank you, all of you, for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you on a future webinar. Bye.
Yep. Thanks, everyone.